I'm not lost, but I'm not found. I'm not up, but I'm not down. I love you and I love you and I love you and I love you, and it's so easy. I love you and I love you and I love you and I love you, and it's so hard. But all I'm really sure of is I'm not happy, I'm not sad, particularly down or glad. I'm somewhere in between. I'm not blue, red, black or green, got no favorite thing. I'm somewhere in between. I'm not wrong, but I'm not right. I'm not lazy, but I don't try. I need you and I need you and I need you and I need you, and it's not easy. I need you and I need you and I need you and I need you, and it's not hard. And all I'm really sure of is that I just don't know why. I'm not happy, I'm not sad, particularly down or glad. I'm somewhere in between. I'm not blue, red, black or green, got no favorite thing. I'm somewhere in between.
Hi there, my name is Aaron Short. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Just making sure everything's good to go. Yeah, looks like it. And today is Monday, October the 2nd. Great to see you all here today. So once I say hello to everyone in the chat already, today I'm going to talk about the week I had, and I'm also going to talk today about this new Fender modeler, the Tone Master Pro. I haven't spoken about it yet because there's not really much to talk about. We don't know much about it, but it's coming out tomorrow, and I want to just talk about the possibilities of it and what my thoughts are regarding it. And yeah, I'm pretty out of it. I slept all yesterday because I did a lot of gigs this weekend. But I'm glad to be here. I need to get my week started the right way, so I'm glad to be here. Thanks for joining me. I'm looking forward to hanging out today. So let's start by saying hi to those that are early. First of all, formerly known as T, says good evening. Doc McFarlane says, let's see that Eastman. I didn't get one in the end, Doc. So what happened was after I tried that awesome guitar I showed you last week on my trip to the guitar stores, someone that I know in New York said they have that model by Eastman, and I've wanted to try Eastman guitars for a long time. So I did get a chance to play one briefly, and it's great. And it's another one of those things for me, like it's great for the money, maybe. And I don't know. I feel weird saying that when I say it's great for the money, but you've got to really connect and like something. You've got to want to pick it up and play it. And yeah, I didn't get that feeling. Also, their model has the big fat neck. That's the other thing with a lot of these guitars. The neck shapes are so different, and I really like that modern Martin neck shape. I just find it so comfortable, and I'm not really a fan of the bigger neck shapes. That's one of the reasons that I'm selling off those authentic guitars. So anyway, that's not happening. I would still like to check out the Martin version with a modern neck, but who knows when that will happen. Beto in, good to see you. Hi, Aaron, everybody, wherever you are. Great to see you here. Patsy says, Bernard here from Suffolk. I hear it's been raining in New York. Yes, it rained bad. If you looked at social media, you'd think that New York was completely underwater. That wasn't the case. I don't want to belittle the fact that people in some parts of Brooklyn and Long Island were severely affected. And of course, those that live in basement apartments can be severely affected by those kind of things. But this building wasn't affected like it was last time we had the floods. That was really bad. And it was, I think, well, no, I experienced it. Lots of people went home from work. They didn't go out that night. Many bars and businesses were affected because no one went out, basically. So I still played my regular gig. It was the quietest it's ever been for that reason. And then I actually had a call to go and cover at a local bar because their person couldn't come out from Long Island. So I went and covered there, and they were still as busy as usual. So, you know, I definitely don't want you to think that I'm saying you shouldn't listen to warnings, and I'm not saying there were clearly floods, and those videos that we saw of the floods were terrible. I'm just trying to say that not everywhere was affected the same way. So I don't know. I mean, you know, it's a tough one because I did see some of the bars that night get really affected financially because people didn't go out. Then again, maybe that's the right thing. Perhaps we shouldn't go out because we don't know what's going to happen. And then luckily the weather report that we did have saying the next day would be less rain was true and everything was fine. And today the sun is out. So it's all quite bizarre, isn't it? But yeah, I had an extra gig because of it. And then the next day I had a 9 a.m. So then I had a 9 p.m. So yesterday I just slept all day, didn't speak. My voice was so tired. Rosanna says, good evening, Aaron. Good evening. Good to see you. Thanks for moderating. Thanks, Lee, for moderating. Rex is heading to the gym. Will listen while I'm working out. Yeah, most people listen to dance music while they work out, but Rex is listening to Gear Chat. Interesting. And Doc says, nice key change. That's right. It went from G. Good picking up on that. It went from G major to A major. Oh, we call that the Michael Jackson key change. Patsy says, Patsy now here from Suffolk. And Randy says, greetings, my brother. Hope you are well. Much love from Southern Illinois. Oh, cool. My brother's out there. And Nick Johnson says, hey, Aaron, have you ever had any issues with the binging? Yeah, I've definitely had issues with binging on guitars. Yeah, that's my problem in life, really, is binging on food and guitar. Oh, you mean, you mean binding? Okay. I'm sure that's what you mean. I'm in a weird mood today. You have to forgive me. I'm still coming out of a dream state. So yeah, I'll come to your question. Let me just start with my usual roundup of this week's videos. So this week I did a pretty important video, if I remember correctly. What was it? Yes, that's right. So I did only one video. Apologies for that. Low output this week, but it was very important to me. It was talking about the authentic guitars. Because I've sold the D28 Authentic. The Triple O Authentic will be up for sale. Well, I've kind of listed it, but I need to list it on Reverb. Those two are going. And I outlined the reason in the video why they're going. Because I thought that was really important. You know, some of this stuff, I feel like people don't talk about it. Like, I've never seen a video where someone says, who are these authentic Martins for? Are they for country singers? Are they for bluegrass players? Not that a certain guitar should only be for certain styles of music. That's simply not true. Some small body guitars lend themselves to fingerstyle because they simply don't have the headroom for strumming. Some small guitars do have a lot of headroom for strumming. Some big guitars lend themselves well. Yeah, there's definitely stereotypes here. And there's definitely stereotypes with vintage guitars. But the main stereotype you get about vintage guitars on the internet is that vintage guitars are simply better. And in a way they are. They're better because they have this incredible history. They're from a better time. The woods were better. There were more woods available. There were less guitars being made. Maybe they were made better. because the way they made them then is the same as they make them now. In fact, back then they made them by hand. So maybe one that was solely made by hand was better. Because despite a lot of companies, including Martin, now saying that they're handmade guitars, yeah, they're handmade. Certain parts are handmade. Certain parts are very much made by machines. And you know what? I have no problem with that. I actually think it makes for excellent consistency. Right? When you CNC out the body parts, when you CNC out certain parts of a guitar, you are helping with the consistency, and you can argue that's done better by the machine, a job like that, than by the person. Some jobs are done by people, and things like finishing the neck and just that final neck carve and sanding to make it feel right to the luthier that's making it. Yeah, that's handmade, but back when those actual authentic guitars were made, the original ones back in the pre-war, they were completely handmade from very different woods to what we have now. And if you've ever had a guitar for like 10 years, you'll notice it does change a lot in those 10 years, even if it's not played very much. So a guitar from the 1930s is going to be, even if it's not played, it's probably going to sound amazing now, the way the wood has aged. So all you really hear online is the old ones are the best, and they're worth the money. So that's why people really want them, because they can sell them and buy a house, right? So I just felt like that's all you hear about. You never hear about, I play country, pop, and rock, and I don't know which guitar to buy, so should I get a vintage Martin or a modern Martin? Everyone just assumes the vintage ones are better because they're worth more money. At least that has been my experience with all that stuff. So I thought it was really important to make that video. Well, obviously I made the video because I was about to sell the 28, and I'm about to sell the 000 Authentic. That's the main reason I made the video, because I'll never have those guitars again. I'm certainly not going to buy those guitars again and then sell them on, lose money, and store them. I'm probably never going to own another vintage or recreation vintage guitar like that again. So I wanted to document them on the channel, but I also thought it was very important, rather than just reviewing them and saying this is a vintage style guitar, because I've already done that in some other videos. I thought it was important to say, look, are these the be and end all? Are these the ones to save up for and buy? Is this the end of your journey? Maybe not. It wasn't the end of my journey. In fact, I don't really think they're right. I mean, I loved owning them. I loved knowing I had them, which is the thing with gear a lot. It's nice to know you have the thing and you have access to it. But at the end of the day, I rarely played them. And when I did play them, they didn't suit the kind of songs that I play at all. So there we go. Hopefully that was helpful. And actually, the comments kind of reflected that too. The video did pretty well, and the comments reflected that. I don't think anyone actually really spoke about that before. And yeah, it was cool. I like videos like that. All right, so now I can come to your questions. I'll come to your question about the binding. Yeah, okay, good. Thanks for clarifying. And Prodigal Nation's here. The Aaron, that's right, the Aaron Show. Have you heard many Taylors played live with the ES2? I'm seriously considering an American Dream model. They're so damn hard to find without pickups. You can buy a Taylor without an ES2. So I would suggest looking for one. I will do a deep dive into the ES2 at some point, because I keep getting asked about it all the time, and it's a big topic. I mean, pickups in general are a big topic. How to make your pickup sound good is such a huge topic. As you know, my recommendation is to go with something like the Anthem, or get a stage guitar like a Cole Clark or a Maton, that kind of thing. My initial thoughts on that, Prodigal Nation, are to get one without it and install the SL like I do. And then I know next year there'll be another less invasive, non-undersaddle pickup, dual source from LR Bags. That's going to be the one. If you can hold off until then, I would wait for that. But you see, I'm trying not to make you excited. I'm trying not to generate excitement, because I'm talking about something that doesn't exist. So not only am I talking about something I haven't tried, I'm talking about something that doesn't currently exist. It's been acknowledged by LR Bags as coming out next year, but it doesn't exist. So I'm not going to sit here and say, you need to buy this and then wait for that to come out, and it's going to make your life amazing. That's a very slippery slope. So if you need a guitar today, get one. And if you need a guitar today and don't need to plug in, get one without a pickup. Enjoy it. Wait till See what happens this time next year or before. If you need one with a pickup today, either go with the ES2 if you can try one and you like it, or, I mean, plenty of people do play them, or get one without the pickup and install the Anthem SL until there's other options on the market, because you can always take it out, right? Right, so Nick said, have you ever had any issues with binding on your guitars? No, and I find that quite a sore subject, this whole binding thing. It's almost like Martin guitar are synonymous with the word binding, loose binding, or the words loose binding. I mean, I've had probably I've played, owned, traded, sold, had in my hand probably, I don't even know, over 300 Martins since I first started playing them, which was around 2014, and I've never seen the binding come off. So I must preface that by saying there's not many Martins I've owned long term. The only long term Martin I've really owned is my HDC 28, and that binding is fine. That's from 2017. I have a feeling that they had a problem with binding coming off from a certain time frame, like I'm just guessing, like 2013 to 2015. And I'm just guessing that those are the guitars you always read about on forums. Either those guitars where the glue failed that they used at that specific time, which they should help you with if it is from that time, because it's a well-known thing. Or it's user error, like they haven't been humidified and the glue has, the way they've been stored has made the binding come loose. And don't forget that the binding is only glued on. I know someone I talk to about guitars a lot. They recently bought a guitar really cheap with the binding coming off, and they simply glued the binding back on again. That's it. So it's not a huge deal. I mean, it sucks if it happens to you and you don't want to do the job yourself and you have to go get someone to do it. I hate taking my guitars to be fixed anywhere, honestly. I'd rather never take them out again. Because I've had bad experiences with people, and especially there was a Martin certified place that caused damage to an instrument that I had. They're no longer a certified tech, thank goodness. But it's not a huge deal. But I have never, knock on wood, never seen binding come off a Martin that I have had in my possession. And I've had a lot go through my hands. So I think it's one of those things like on the internet where someone says something in a forum and it becomes this kind of thing. I really, not that they're lying, it's just that the internet magnifies things. Like no one goes on a forum and says my binding hasn't come off. So when you see someone say their binding has come off, it kind of sticks in the mind. But if it happened to me, I would just, I'm lucky, I'm near Martin. I would either take it to Martin and ask them to fix it for me themselves, so I know it's done properly, hopefully, and go and pick it up again when it's ready, or I would take it to someone that I trust to have them glue it back on again. And I'm sure some people would just glue it back on themselves. Just make sure you use the right stuff. But yeah, that's always been in my mind, that thing about the binding, because it's never happened to me. Now that doesn't mean it doesn't happen before someone says it, but I think it's, well, I'm not even gonna say it's overblown, because if it has happened to you, it sucks. But it hasn't happened to me, and I've had a lot of guitars. I did have a thing years ago where the washers would rattle, and what they do now is they simply just don't put the washers on anymore. Because what would happen is they'd put the tuners in with the washers, and the problem is then those washers could potentially mark the headstock. But what would happen is with humidity, the wood shrinking of the headstock would make those washers come loose, and you couldn't tighten them, and they would just sit there and rattle when you played certain notes. So the answer in the end was just to take them out. I actually had a guitar I took to the factory, and they just took those out, and it was fine. And luckily, it didn't leave any marks. And then I noticed the year after that, they just left the washers out completely, which is what they do now. Ridiculous Wonk. Hi, Aaron. Thoughts on the Yamaha FGX5? Looks like a great guitar, a reasonable price. Yep, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I've reviewed the FGX3 on the channel. I briefly had an FGX5. They're very similar. Quick tip for you. One of the things that I didn't like about the 5 is the faux wood pick guard. But I've since learned that you can actually just peel that off. That's actually a sticker. So if I was getting one again, I'd peel that sticker off and you just have a regular pick guard below it. That was a bit of a bugbear of mine. Let's go and take a quick look at them for anyone that doesn't know what we're talking about over on the desktop. And you can see right now we got 4 in stock. The guitars really are back. I mean, these were not available for months, and now there's 4. Wow. We've got weights ranging from £4.9 all the way up to £4.14. That's a substantial difference of 5 ounces. And the prices, I think the price may have gone up slightly since I saw them, but not bad. It's still a great price, right? $16.49 for a guitar with a great pickup system that also sounds very good unplugged. And if you call Sweetwater and ask them for a discount on, I think they'll probably give you one. I mean, don't tell them I told you that, but this is the kind of guitar, and the fact that there's 4 in stock and they're not a new model, where you could probably say, hey, can you do what's your best price on that? And you probably get a bit cheaper. So yeah, they're great. They're mahogany, they're light. I mean, £4.9, considering it's a Dreadnought with a pickup system in it, is very good. We'll go through the pictures quickly here. So this pick guard has like a faux wood thing. So like I said, you can peel that layer off and it's just a regular pick guard underneath. So I'm told. Nice woods, no streaky ebony on this one. Nice dark fretboard. Excellent build quality. Sound very good unplugged. They sound like a guitar, as I like to say. And that pickup is a very good system too. I remember it worked very well with the Baggs Voice Print DI, but it also sounded very good by itself. The only thing people really don't like about these is they don't offer one with a cutaway, which I think is silly. They really should release one which is rosewood with a cutaway in it. They also have an OM style one as well, but again, no cutaway. And you can get it without the pickup if you want to put your own pickup or not have a pickup. But that is a good system. I think if you're ever going to plug in, I think I'd get this one. For me, this pickup goes hand in hand with the guitar. It was all developed around the same time. In fact, it's a good thing. All right, so that gets a thumbs up from me. I don't own one. I thought several times about owning one, but again, it's the same thing as the Eastman. Like, I just wouldn't ever play it. Like, I know I'd pick up the HDC Martin and play that over the Yamaha, you know. So unless I need that Yamaha for a very specific gig, like if I'm getting a gig tomorrow where I need a big loud Dreadnought and I'm going to play it every week and it's going to get all dinged up and destroyed, I would totally get one of those Yamahas, because for the price, it's great, right? Whereas my Martin HDC is pretty much irreplaceable at this point. They don't make them anymore. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. It's great, and some people might actually prefer the Yamaha, honestly, to many more expensive guitars, Martin, etc. But that's just me. Lee says, I get what you mean. I love to play my D42, but my CO9, I just like owning it, but don't gel with it when playing. There you go. There's some gear, like, it feels good to own it, but then you realize 12 months later you don't play it. And I don't think that's not really something I want to do. I don't want to be a collector, you know. But that can be a thing about gear. But, you know, it's like owning gear and playing gear, almost 2 separate things. No table tennis tonight for Steve. Sorry to hear that, buddy. Rex says, how does the rain song fit the songs you play? I'm starting to use mine for some rehearsal sessions with my bandmates. Before that, prime use it for traveling. It's good. I like how it sounds. It's funny you say that, Rex. Two things I want to talk about here briefly. Now you've brought it up. First of all, another sad news. Petteway had a custom, or has a custom rain song. It's the one with the tobacco burst top. It's very cool. It's like an OM. And I saw on Facebook he sadly passed away today. Very shocking. I believe he was diagnosed with cancer just maybe a month ago, and a rapid decline. And so my thoughts. I didn't know him personally, but I was friends with him on Facebook, and his wife was posting about it. So thoughts to his family. More sad news. I mean, just was it last week or the week before? I was talking about Sammy Ash had skin cancer, and now another cancer. It's very sad, and makes you remember how, you know, that these things can happen like last minute. It's crazy, right? It's shocking. But someone was selling that model last week, and I was actually thinking, not just before they even were selling that, I was thinking about the Rain Song and thinking that it'd be nice to have the OM with the unidirectional top, or the parlor. So then the parlor, like we were talking earlier about the Eastman Rain Song Maker parlor that I showed last week as well, that would then make for a very good travel guitar. The WS bodies, I don't know. I guess if you're gigging all the time and you're a bigger person like me and you want that big body guitar, it makes sense. But lately, I'm more into OMs. I don't know. Even though sometimes the OMs aren't as good for the way I play because I play with a heavy hand. So the truth is, Rex, I'm not really sure. I just like having a Rain Song around because it sounds very good. I can leave it out, not worry about it, and that's really the reason. And I also like the thinner neck. I actually think Rain Song should do a neck in between the two, not as thin as the N1 and not as fat as the N2, but that's just me. I would choose the N1 over the N2. I like the thinner side of it, and I like the fact it doesn't have a truss rod, because although the action might not be exactly as I want it, I quite like the fact that I'm not tempted to mess with it. You know what I mean? Like, they've set it straight with a touch of relief, and that's it. That's how you play it. I kind of like that in a way. That's why I like the authentic D28 with no truss rod. But then as that was wood over time, maybe that would be a problem. I don't know. Without having a guitar, I don't know. Jasper says, do you play in open tunings? With all those guitars, it's maybe not a bad idea. Open D, open G, or open G6. Well, the reason that I don't, Jasper, is because I mostly play out, and I don't want to retune on stage, and I'm also not able to take two guitars. If I was able to take 2 or 3 guitars to a gig, I probably would have a guitar tuned open. But even then, I never like even switching guitars. I just like to play. In fact, I usually play song into song into song into song. I rarely even stop between songs these days. I like to just keep the music going. You know, I'll stop if I can see the crowd are actually reacting well and requesting songs. But if I'm doing a background gig, I just keep playing these days. So the only thing I do is I tune down to drop D, and I do the 3 songs back to back, because so I haven't got to tune back again. And you got to be careful then, because like you can then get buzzing, and you might want to adjust the truss rod and the action for that particular tuning. So no, it's just never appealed to me. I have dabbled in it in the past. I've done open tunings years ago, writing songs. I've done open tunings. I've occasionally tried certain famous songs that are in open tunings, like Joni Mitchell and songs like that. And I think it sounds incredible. And when Lee was here, he was playing a guitar in open tuning, and I said, "Wow, Lee, that guitar sounds amazing. You know, fantastic." And then when I tuned it up to standard tuning, it got all tight and sounded like a regular guitar again. So open tunings are a wonderful thing, but out of laziness, I don't really use them. The furthest I get at the moment, after all these years, is drop D. For me, it was a big deal. If we all had the money, do you think we would all order a Boucher? I'm serious. They don't pay me. Serious question. I've never played one. I've heard the name brought up a few times as a great guitar, but I've never played one, so I don't really have a comment. And you know, the whole problem with this thing. Oh, Prodigal Nation knows about Al. Yeah, very sad. I didn't know him, but Al Petteway seemed like a really good, down to earth, just a good, nice guy, you know. And I don't think I even met him, but just from seeing what he posted and the few videos I saw, I think I might have messaged him once, and he was very gracious with his time to me, and so yeah. But Jasper, I definitely don't want to comment on a guitar I haven't played. I think the big takeaway from today is, like I was talking about Eastman and Yamaha, and now we're talking about Boucher. There's so much more to it than just the guitar. There's the physical guitar, and there's the emotional connection. I had a conversation with someone about this a few days ago. The emotional connection of a guitar, of an instrument, right? And is that right or wrong? I don't know. I know a lot of us I want to say suffer from it, because it can be a problem. You know, I've definitely had instances in the past where, I mean, one reason I got on the whole pickup journey thing was, can I make my Martin sound on stage like a Cole Clark? That was the whole thing with it. And it was such a waste of time, really, when I think about it. Because, of course, the answer was no. And I just thought, back then in 2015, I was thinking, well, new gear's coming out all the time. Gear will get better and better and better and better. So even if I don't find a way of doing it, it will happen. But that never happened. The closest we've really gotten is that LR Bags may release a new pickup system dual source next year. That's possibly going to get us closer, but that still isn't here, right? Hasn't happened yet. And it took me a long time to kind of, I mean, I'm being very open now. It took me a long time to be okay. And it sounds ridiculous to people that aren't into guitars, and even some people that are into guitars. It took me a long time to be okay with, you know, I'm going to gig my Cole Clark. The only reason I gig the Cole, okay, here's the thing. The only reason I gig the Cole Clark is that it just works so well. Like I said, it's a guitar that I can, it's sturdy. It's sturdy and strong, so it holds up well. It's not like a fragile vintage Martin. It's, in that regards, it's replaceable as well. It's got the pickup all built into it. The controls are on the side. It's got long battery life. It's a tool for a job that does that job very, 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 very well. So the fact it was so good, so right for the job I used it for, or use it for, is why I was okay with it. And then I just kind of thought, well, yeah, Martin aren't doing this, so forget it. I'll just keep my Martin to play unplugged. And then over time, I actually played the Martin less and less and less anyway, which is kind of what happens. But I'm the same way with Fender. You know, my Sir guitar in many ways is a lot better than my Fender guitar. But there's something about playing the Fender. This all needs to die, though. This needs to go away. This is holding everybody in the industry back, this kind of mentality. Like, oh, I must play a Fender, I must play a Gibson, or I must play a Martin. That's not to say that they don't make great guitars, because they do. And some of my favorite guitars right now are those guitars, are made by those places. And not just because of the emotional connection, but because they are just great instruments, right? There's no doubt about it. And of course, they have some of the greatest people working there, etc., etc. They know what they're doing. And some of the modern companies, like Sir, make really weird choices. I had that whole debacle with the tuners on my guitar, and it turned out they were just faulty. I bought 2 more sets, and now the tuners work as I would expect. That shouldn't happen. All right, so it's not that modern and smaller builders are necessarily better either. Any guitar can be great, any guitar can be trash, any guitar can have a problem, any guitar can not have a problem. So with the Boucher thing, I guess what I'm trying to say is, if I had one here right now and I played it and it felt amazing and it sounded amazing and it gave me a feeling and a sound that I've never had before, then yes, I'd probably sell everything and keep that Boucher. Yeah, it's got to really be at that level for me to get me off that emotional connection. But I really think that emotional connection is very, very dangerous. And I think people let companies off for things that they shouldn't do because of that. And I think it's holding things back because, again, talking about the vintage guitar thing, people looking for those 30s guitar. The 30s guitars are the best. I want a recreation exactly of the 30s guitar. But what about all the innovation and technology we've had since then? Like, those guitars weren't plecked. They didn't have Evo or stainless steel frets. They didn't have modern techniques that can make things a lot better, right? It's like vintage doesn't necessarily mean better. Old isn't always better. So that's my thoughts about it. So I guess to summarize that long answer to Jasper, if I play the Boucher and it knocked my socks off and it felt great too, because the feel is important too, then yes, I would certainly buy one. And I'd certainly be willing to sell a Martin to buy one too. But you have to play these things, right? You have to get them in your hands. I guess that's the other thing about Yamaha, Fender, Martin, and Gibson. They're very easy to play. I mean, that's getting harder and harder, but the stores have them in the store. I've never seen a Boucher in person. So that's a problem. Thomas, how you doing? Good to see you. And Prodigal Nation said Al did pass away. I couldn't believe it, but did confirm Amy talked about it on Facebook. Yes, that's where I saw it. I was shocked. Way too soon. I was shocked. I just saw the rest in peace, the announcement on there. I was like, "What? I didn't know." I mean, and then she goes on to say, I mean, please read the post. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but she basically went on to say that he was diagnosed recently, and they thought that he'd have like maybe 6 months, and they could do some things and talk about it publicly and let people know. But he declined very quickly and passed away. And yeah, the only reason I know about him is really, I mean, he's huge in the fingerstyle world, and I did hear of him from that, but mostly I knew of him from the Rain Song connection. He had one or two, well, I think maybe two signature guitars with Rain Song, and I believe he played them on his album and everything too. So yeah, sad, very sad. Thomas Moore says it's a beautiful day in PA. I mean, we had on the East Coast, we had like 6 days of rain. It was very depressing, right? It was just constant rain and clouds, and now the sun's out. I was resting so much to yesterday and today that I haven't even been out yet. So I need to go out and see the sun. It's raining where Lee is. Steve, have you managed to compare the S1 and S1 Plus for loudness? I haven't. I think we're going to do this. I hate saying when I'm going to do a video because it never happens, but the place where I'm going to do these videos, I think we're going to do it next Wednesday. So still a couple of weeks away. But that reminds me of that thing with the Martin binding, right? A few people are saying on forums that the S1 Pro Plus is louder than the S1 Pro, and just based on my memory, I don't think it is, but now some people have said it, it starts this whole like avalanche. So I definitely want to try it for myself. Steve says I'm sure the mic preamps on the Plus have been upped in terms of gain. That's a pretty easy test, right? Because I can just plug in the Voice Live 3 Extreme via the mic input, record a loop of me singing or the guitar, and play it through the mic preamp on either, and see if they both have the same level. And then you can use the master volumes on the two speakers to see physically which one can get louder. But I don't know. That's another bugbear of mine, this whole mic gain thing. Because there's simply some microphones that don't have so much gain as others. I don't want to say low gain. I mean, there's no such thing, really. Some microphones have more gain than others, right? So if you use a mic with a decent amount of gain and you've got a good technique and a decent projection on your voice and you have correct mic technique, then I never had a problem with that stuff. The one thing I had a problem with was that NuX stage amp that I reviewed. The Anthem didn't drive it as hard as it could have done, and therefore it didn't get as loud as it could have done. But that's the only thing. Here's the thing that bugs me. Say you get an amp like an S1 Pro, and to get the guitar or the mic loud enough, you've got to run it on 10, and then it starts to clip on 10. So you back it off to 9.5. That is absolutely fine. You don't need to get a preamp to then boost that up to run it at 5. And in fact, Sweetwater did a video last week of the SM7B now has an SM7DB version with a built-in preamp, a built-in cloud lifter. So I reviewed that a few weeks ago. I was going to get one with the cloud lifter, and I returned it. It sounded great, but it doesn't work for me in this room because, I mean, right now there's planes flying overhead and you can't hear them because the mic is dynamic and right in front of my face. Whereas even the Shure, as quiet as it is here on a stand, you're still going to hear those planes. So it didn't work for me. But what I'm trying to say is they did the comparison of the old version without the cloud lifter boosted to be loud enough, which their interface was able to do, versus the new version with the built-in cloud lifter on half of that gain. And they said that it was cleaner. I mean, in theory, maybe if you've got a low quality preamp and you boost it that much, in theory you are going to add noise. But if you've already got a good interface like the Apollo stuff, it shouldn't matter that you're boosting the gain a lot for that particular source. So with the Bose, I guess, yeah, if they're using low quality preamps and you boost them up to 10, you may add a bit more noise, but I would argue, does it matter? You're playing that thing out in the streets or in a bar, right? Whereas like right now, you're hearing me right now, this headset is at is really boosted. It's at like 9 out of 10. So I'm having to boost this mic because it's not loud enough. But I'm not using a cloud lifter. I'm just boosting it by 9 out of 10. I'm just using the full range of my preamp to do it. I'm certainly not going to get another preamp to make this louder into that preamp in order to save a little bit of noise. Maybe if I'm at Abbey Road, things like, but I think it's completely unnecessary. And like the cloud lifter, the new version of the SM7B, the SM7DB, it's nice that you can get that now and have all that built in and not need the external cloud lifter. It's cleaner. But I don't think that if there is any less noise, which there probably is, but I don't think it's the sort of thing that's audible by anyone. I think that's purely a selling point. I could be wrong because I haven't done the comparison myself here, but I certainly don't think it's worth upgrading for that. And I feel the same way about the Bose. If the Bose, if you can make your loudest thing on the Bose, which will be your voice, loud enough where it starts to distort the Bose, and you back it off by 1 notch, then that's great. You're done. It's only a problem like that new X amp I had where I couldn't clip it. At 10, the guitar wasn't clipping. It wasn't loud enough. That's the only time I've ever used an amp where I then needed another preamp to push that preamp harder. And that's my only criticism of that speaker. And the good news is that like the full Anthem versions now, they actually have a hotter output anyway. So you wouldn't have that problem anymore. And the SL that I like has a hotter output too. So you wouldn't even have that problem. With those ones, chances are you will max out the speaker anyway, so you don't need another preamp in there. But your question was, are they louder? Are they better? The only way I really know that is to actually do the comparison. And that will happen at some point because I really want to sell the old S1 Pro and I really want to sell the JBL. And I can't do that until I make the video. Thomas Moore just got a 0028 Eric Clapton. Very nice. It's my favorite Martin. I love it. I think that's got the same V-neck that the authentic 000 that I'm selling has, and that is a great feeling neck. It's not really my thing because I'm so used to the modern style necks, but if I had to have a V-neck, it would be that. It feels great in the hand, especially on that authentic. Let me just see if there's an Eric Clapton Martin in stock right now on Sweetwater. I'm just curious to see what the current levels of stockage are. Wow, they got, it's crazy, they got 3. It really is a buyer's market right now. It really, really, really is, right? Oh, it's a good thing, don't get me wrong. Let's check these out quickly. $4,000. This is really, I don't like this. I mean, Sweetwater have been doing Plex now for a long time, and they're awesome. And I'll talk about that in the video at some point. But I don't like this because the Martin guitars are plecked at the factory. Now, $300 for a plec, I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. And in fact, if you wanted, say, a different gauge of string and to a very radically different action, you probably should do it if you want the, if you want that on paper best setup. But I think when a guitar is already plecked, they should probably put here, this guitar is already plecked at the factory, but you can add an extra setup with the pleck for, I don't know. If you didn't know that was already plecked, then you might be spending $300 plus tax for nothing, is my point. But I noticed they are now adding this on the website. And I'm all for it, but not on a guitar that's been plecked already. So just bear that in mind if you're ordering a guitar. Just bear that. I don't think most people would do the pleck anyway. And there's something that needs more discussion in the video. Like, is it worth it? There's a lot to talk about with the pleck. But one reason I like Martins is the playability. See, again, we were talking earlier about binding. For years, people said Martins are not playable guitars. They're hard to play. They are not. So ever since they started plecking them at the factory and using all this CNC stuff, they're some of my favorite playing guitars. They're awesome. And when we did the tour the other week of the factory, they've even built another machine now that will put the frets in. It puts the frets in, it hammers them down, and then they put that through the pleck. So, but I'm okay with it. Like I just said, A Martin with the right setup is one of the best playing acoustics I've ever played, personally. I think that, and I think it's partly because of the plek. But I wouldn't get another plek on the guitars already plecked. That was just a PSA. But anyway, I want to take a quick look at these. I haven't seen one for a long time. What is that? You see that silver line there? I think that's just leftover deposit from the frets. I'd want to clean that off there. These do have the nice solid black fretboard still because they are a certain price point. I would have cleaned this off. Look at that. That's not good. You see that? You can just clean that off yourself, but they should have picked up on that when they did the inspection. Just being fully transparent, yes, I'm affiliate with Sweetwater, but I'm still going to say things as I see them. I'm not going to ignore stuff because I have an affiliate link with them. Although I do really appreciate that, of course. But I'm still going to say things like I see them. I asked at Martin, why did they change this font? And the person doing the tour did not know, despite working there for 30 years. And I said, don't worry, it's just a very geeky thing for me to say. But you've changed this font in the guitars. So if Michael is watching, who owns one of these guitars from a while ago, you'll tell me, right, that font is not the font that's in your guitar. Doesn't matter, but I just want to know why. I'd like to know the reason. Nice looking back, straight grain, nice glossy V-neck. Yeah, I mean, it's a great guitar. It's a classic, right? It's a classic guitar. Yeah, you should be very happy with that. I just love the look. I love the look. So that's a triple O. I gotta admit, I like the OM. I do like the OM guitars, but if you like a triple O, you get that sweeter sound, less tension on it. Great for fingerstyle and blues. But again, I'll say it again, it all depends on the guitar. Because like I showed you in that M36 video, two guitars can sound completely different. There you can see on the headstock there's no washer. So there used to be a washer under that nut. And that's what they took out about 6 years ago. But this is nice. I like like on this guitar, I like the woods, They're still using the best woods on these expensive guitars, which is how it should be. And they've got one here that's 4 pounds and 2 ounces. Take a quick look at that, see? Yep, I love that fretboard. So nice. I presume it's got some dye on there, it's been stained to be that color, but I'm okay with that. I like it. This looks great. Yep. Yep, can't go wrong with that. Nice and light too. Very cool. All right. You need roadies. Yeah, I'm not. Even if I had people to take guitars into a place for me, I wouldn't. I mean, they're going to take up space. In the limited space I have, they're going to take up space. I've got to tune them all. I've got to switch them physically, and then tune them again. I just wouldn't bother. If I really wanted to do a song in open tuning, I would tune it to that tuning in my break. Play the song when I come back, and then quickly tune it back up again. But that's just me. That's why those Variax guitars, the acoustics were really cool, because they had all that built in with a switch. But they killed those off many years ago, which I think is ridiculous. Thomas Moore, I made a trade of a Les Paul special custom shop for the Clapton. Oh, okay, been looking for one for a long time. Also, yours is not a new one. It's an older one. Which, hey, it's not a bad idea. I actually think I think the guitars from around 2018 are some of the best that Martin have made. Because the guitars around 2018 did not have the streaky ebony. They were not running out of woods. I don't say running out, but there was more wood around. They even made some Brazilian models back then. So for me, the best time and the time I've played Martins, like, okay, fine. I didn't like the reimagined guitars I liked. The ones before that I didn't like as much. The ones just before that potentially had the binding thing. When the reimagines first came out, for me, that was the peak of those guitars. Like my HDC 28E, that is one of the first reimagined guitars. And the retros too. The retros were the precursor to the reimagined. The retro is how they tested that out. And then they also tried out their F1 pickup system. But those guitars were actually the same spec as what the reimagines were. And for me, those 28 Reimagines are awesome. I was talking to someone today, and I was looking for the OMC version of the Reimagine guitar, which has either the Fishman Aura Enhance or the Anthem in it. Like, so basically the same as my HTC 28, but an OM. Yeah. Why would they stop making those guitars? They're great stage guitars, you know? Lee wants to play the guitar. Steve says, I play a Mason, Chinese made. It's like a Canon, pound for pound, better than anything I've played. Yeah, well, the 3 series of the Yamahas are made in China. It's, you know, I don't really understand the whole thing about where guitars are made. To me, it doesn't matter where a guitar is made. But there are still factors of what do you want to play and how is that guitar when you play it. I mean, the Eastman guitars are made really, really well. If you look closely, they don't have quite the attention to detail under the hood as, you know, if you look like in between the slotted headstock, there might be a little patch there that wouldn't be there on the Martin. Maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't. But the overall actual look for what you're paying is amazing. But that's because of where they're made, right? Doesn't mean it won't be a good guitar because it's not made there. Yeah, Jasper, sometimes, you know, sometimes there is no answer, and sometimes the answer is long. Sometimes the answer is short, but usually it's long. Strats are my tools of choice. I know this to be true. Me and Strats both came out in 54. Yeah, nice. Do you have a 1954 Strat? That would be cool. But again, Randy, I'm thinking mainly of the value of that guitar. Is what I'm thinking about. See, a lot of this has to do with the collectability. A lot of people want a vintage guitar, not because they're great guitars, but because that guitar's worth $500,000, right? Let's be real. I have lots of guitars. D42 is my favorite to play, but out of several Martins and other high-end guitars, my Voyager comes in second. There you go. That's what I'm saying. It's practical. You can travel with it, and maybe it sounds really good, you know. I'm trying to get a guitar passport for my D42 to travel out of the UK because of the avalanche. Wow, I didn't know that. So that's another thing, you know, when you get something like a rain song like this, you haven't got to think about stuff like that, and you can put it in the checked luggage too, as long as it's in a good case. I knew I knew of John Prine. Yes. Thoughts on his son Tommy? I don't know Tommy Prine. No. Starting like his music. Ships in the harbor. I'll check him out. Just today, I was discovering a new song. Duran Duran. Save a Prayer. I was just learning that. Never heard it before. Really love it. So Michael's here. He says, "Love my Clapton too." So Michael, this is cool. Michael has the same guitar, the Clapton Martin, and he got it used in 2003. Wow. So that's an older guitar now. You got it used in, so it's 20 years old, and you got it used. So it's over 20 years old. $2,000, and you see now they're $4,000. There's inflation for you. Wow. And you were telling me you haven't got any fretwear. I find that unbelievable. Because if I gig a guitar for a year, I'm getting fretwear. Not to the point where I need to refret it, but visible fretwear in the frets. So I can't believe you've had that guitar that long and you're gigging it and it doesn't have fretwear. I mean, the other thing is there's frets and frets, right? There's fret wire and fret wire. And some companies use lower quality fret wire than others. That's definitely a thing. There's many people buying with recent stock market gains. Well, just with the price of everything going up, that's the problem. And the thing is, so many people bought guitars in the lockdown and after lockdown because guitars were so hard to find that when you saw one, you tended to buy it. So that happened to so many people that I guess people now have enough guitars, right? And then they're selling those guitars on the used market, like I've been doing recently. And then people have access to those guitars as well. So that's the problem. The whole market is oversaturated. Font tone. Yes, the newer fonts don't sound as... Can you imagine? The newer font doesn't sound as good as the old font. I know, I will say this, though. The newer font looks more cartoony than the old one. For sure. I have a feeling when Lee and Rosanna and I went to Rudy's and they had some vintage Martins, I had a feeling that was the font in those guitars. So I think they may have switched it back. And if that's not the reason, then I don't know why. Pete says CNC made rubbish. Much better consistent builders out there. Yeah, if you can find them. I don't mind CNC. You know, I mean, I don't know how I feel about the whole guitar being made by a robot. Then again, I mean, maybe it'll be great. I haven't played one that's made by a robot completely. I like the idea of consistency, because that's the thing with the old guitars. Some of them were terrible. They weren't all good because there was no consistency, right? They were cutting everything out by hand, and it was every guitar was way different to the next. At least now, the guitars are basically the same, even though they can sound very different. At least they kind of look and feel the same. I guess maybe you wouldn't like that. I guess there's something to be said for making a guitar completely by hand. I believe the Martin custom shops are made by hand. Well, no, not are they? If you get something like an OM28 with an Addy top, that's basically made on the factory floor and they put the Addy top on it, I think. Where if you get something like the Authentic, I think the Authentics are completely made by hand, but I don't, are they? Are the tops cut by hand, or are they still made in the CNC? I don't know. But I guess it keeps the prices down as well. And that's why some of the import guitars are so good, because they're made on the same machines that they're made on here. Prodigal Nation, I was joking. You could have a repertoire of bad jokes like some of the fingerstyle guys who do constantly have to tune. It works better with the audience than you would imagine. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with telling jokes and talking to the audience, but it's just not something that I really want to do. And all the material I play is, you know, it doesn't. That's the thing. The songs I play don't call for altered tunings. They drop D for. I mean, really, there's one song. Really, Foo Fighters, Everlong needs drop D. Otherwise, my repertoire doesn't need it. It just needs a good capo for some songs. That's it. Hello there, Mr. Host. Good day, good evening, afternoon, dawn. I think you put a picture I can't see. Yes. Thank you. And Philippe, hello. What is your favorite acoustic guitar amp for home practice? Do you think my studio monitors are more or less satisfying the proper acoustic amp? I do. I was just playing mine here today, and I have these eye-layered precision monitors, stereo monitors that have the built-in room correction, and I love them. I had a bunch of issues with them when I first got them. Small stuff, but stuff that bothered me enough to get them exchanged. And to be fair to IK, they did exchange them twice. Actually, to be fair to me, the first exchange was a defective speaker, and they switched them again after that for a minor cosmetic issue. But they did it, and I absolutely love them. And there's really nothing better. They're flat, they sound amazing, they're sitting up here on the desk. To plug a guitar into them is probably the best sound you're ever going to get. And they also cost more than the acoustic amp as well. Acoustic amps really should, for me, are for gigs, you know, or PA speakers for gigs. So I would always recommend that too. Anyone that's looking to amplify their acoustic at home, and I know why you want to do that. I do it all the time. But I would recommend investing that money into a good pair of studio monitors that you can also use for recording movies and other things, rather than an acoustic. I think an acoustic amp is a very niche product that not everyone needs. K-Web, how you doing? Still seeking the Bose S1 Pro alternative. Too expensive in the Middle East. Oh, okay. Are you familiar with the HK Move 8, popular in Europe? Very nice spec. I've never played one. I've heard people talk about them. Yes. And I also think that might be louder anyway, right? The HK stuff. I mean, don't forget, the people rant and rave about the S1 Pro and the S1 Pro Plus. It's not a massively loud speaker. It is not. And why do people even expect it to be? It's 150 watts, I believe. I'm not, nothing wrong with that. And for many people that say, oh, it's really loud, my point I'm trying to make is people that say it's really loud on Facebook are playing in listening room. They're playing in a small room with the people, luckily for them, 50 people sitting there listening to them while they have their meal and they're playing. And that's great. And it does work great for that. But it's never going to be loud enough for a noisy bar or a wedding. It's never gonna. It's the wrong tool for the job. The reason the S1 Pro Plus is such a great tool is that it's light as heck, it's cool as heck with its features, and it sounds great with all that in mind. It's never going to replace. I hate to say it, but it's just obvious, isn't it? It's never going to replace a QSC K8.2. And the fact that the 8.2 is £27, why wouldn't you get that? If you need volume, please get the 8.2. Don't get the S1 Pro if you need volume. If you don't need volume and you need the features of the S1 Pro and the lightweight, then get the S1 Pro. And then in an ideal situation, you'll have both and you'll plug the S1 Pro into the 8.2 and then you can go to any gig. But I haven't tried the HK, but you should check it out for sure. Or look for a used original S1 Pro. Because I'm pretty sure when it comes to me selling my original S1 Pro, I'll probably get $300 for it, right? That's the problem now with this digital stuff. The value just tanks once they bring out a new version. But that is the nature of the beast. Mary Black, I know her well. Yep, I've heard her recordings when I was learning songs for St. Patrick's Day. She's very good. The fretware is not bad on the Clapton Martin. I've used it on at least 200 shows. Wow. I guess it's good quality fretwire. But again, what were those guitars like back in 2003? You know, back in 2003, they were not plecked. And that's when a lot of people said those Martins were not easily played. But I'm guessing Michael has had the guitar set up several times now. But I mean, that's an interesting guitar you got there from 2003. I mean, that's all practically vintage, right? 20-year-old Martin. And it was, and do you know what year it was actually made? So I guess it was made in the 90s. That is now vintage. It's all in the wood. Every tree is different. I completely agree. And then the action too. Like when you lower the action of a guitar, it really affects the tone. But sometimes you have to. If you're playing certain styles of music and certain techniques, you have to lower the action. I just put 11s on my Cole Clark because I'm struggling with the 12s on it, with the action where it is. So the string gauge, the action, that all drastically affects the tone. And then the wood, and then the parts of the guitar that are still made by hand, there's obviously tolerances there as well. How much glue did they use? How did they voice the bracing, right? Because the way the bracing is scalloped is done by hand. That is done by hand. That does give a lot of the voice to the guitar. So that I agree with. But don't forget as well that many parts of a guitar now are also made by a CNC, and Martin admit to it. And I don't think it's a bad thing. But they're not. When they say they're handmade, they're partially handmade, I would say. In my opinion. Don't get in trouble. Mine is a 2009 Clapton, says Thomas. That's cool. So Thomas has a 2009, and Michael has a pre-2003. I love it because they're aged now. You know, none of this VTS stuff. They are naturally aged over time. That new wood is now aged, and I bet the wood they were using back then was of a good quality too, which is great. That's very good. Top has aged well, and the action is really nice. It's the lowest action of any Martins and no buzz. There you go. Sustains and rings out very well on first strum. Well, that just happens. I mean, it's also possible that the original owner had it set up by the best in the business, and then the next owner had it plecked, and then you got it, and it was already through the ringer and stabilized and played in, and there you go. How are the frets on that? Does it have fretware? I mean, it's also possible someone replaced the frets on it, of course. We don't know. Ever played Sinkerwood? I haven't. I think I may have played it. I remember when it first came out, when Grun had it in his store, and I was there, and I played some. It's great, and I love the idea of it, but that is now rare. That's getting as rare as Brazilian now, isn't it? They used it all up. That's what they do. They use wood up. Like all the wild grain Martins that came out last year, they're just using up wild grain that they had. and then they'll go back to straight grain. Then they might find some more sinker. They'll use all that up. They just use up whatever's available at the time, which is obviously not a bad thing, and probably necessary too. Guitar's only been set up twice when I had the pickups installed. Well, you don't know what the previous owner did to it as well, to be fair. The previous owner may have pulled the frets out and put new frets in. Do you have your action numbers written down? I was doing that, and then he said to me, it's good to have that information, but all guitars are going to be different anyway, and I agree with that. Like if you've got a guitar with a really thin neck and a guitar with a really fat neck, I think the actions could be different anyway. Like the guitar with the thinner neck will feel easier to play because of the thin neck. So I agree with him on that. I also think it's good to have them written down. I tend to just do it myself now by feel. I tend to just play the songs I play, and if they buzz, then I look at the relief in the neck and the nut slots and the saddle, and if they don't buzz, I just leave it alone. So yeah, I do think it's good to make notes of what works for you. Right, if you've got a guitar that plays great, figure out what those measurements are and write them down. But bear in mind, like I said, I mean, a short scale guitar will feel completely different to a long scale guitar anyway. So you couldn't just use those numbers on both. No fretwear. This is really interesting. Because when I gig a guitar, like I gigged the Cole Clark for 15 months and I gigged a Rain Song for 15 months, and the frets were like not worn out. They were still both playable. And my Mini Maiden I gigged maybe for 5 years, and then they were getting worn out. It seems to me, I'm sure some of it is how you play. Like if you have a light touch, you'll wear the frets less than if you have a heavy touch, of course. But it seems to me that some guitars, fret wire is just better fret wire than others as well. So I'm currently using, on the Martin, I do like the Martin Lifespan strings, and that's what I'm using. And on my stage guitar, I like the XS, the Dario. I think they're very good. BMO, my retro is 10 years old, needs a fret. Okay, so it needs a fret job. It changed so much the first 6 months, but it's settled in perfectly. Of course, it also depends how often you play them, right? If you play a 4-hour gig every night for a year, you're going to see some fret wear. It's all relative as well. But I do think there's fret wire and fret wire. Oh, that's nice to have the action for each guitar written down in the case. Yeah, that's good. And there we okay, so Lee, I'm glad Lee said that. I wear frets out in a couple of years playing at home on all my guitars. Okay, so I think it's the player. Lee, I think we need to lighten up on our grip. I think, especially when I'm playing a gig, I think I can get carried away and like grip the neck, and that's where that. I tend to just get on the first few frets, like first 5 to 7 frets. So I have to say, that's why like Martin do make the Modern Deluxe, and on those guitars they're using the Evo fret wire, and I do think that's good. But you got to pay so much money to get in that ballpark, you know. Like look at this, look, $4,400 for this one. Now, okay, you've got the modern features. It's incredibly light. It's got Evo Gold fret wire, which is those kind of gold frets, which you may or may not you might not like the look of them, but they're gonna last you a long time because they're harder than nickel frets. You don't have the solid black on this, so despite it being that price, you've still got your streaky ebony. So, you know, great guitar, but I mean, you've got to pay all that money to get Evo fret wire. Why don't more? I mean, there's hardly any guitars on Sweetwater that come with stainless steel frets. They would last for a long time. Companies don't want to use it. It drives me crazy. I mean, I think Evo fret wire should be on every guitar over $3,000 because it just saves you having to refret it again. So while I'm sure I've never played the OM Deluxe, I'd love to, and I'm sure it's a great guitar. But when you get into that kind, I mean, that plus tax is you're getting up to $5,000. You know, I don't think you should have to spend that sort of money to get that fret wire. I know maintaining the guitar and humidifying it, it's expensive, you know. So I wish that would change at some point. I wish they'd use the harder fret wire in general. but then it would be less work for luthiers, of course. I'm also sure, like myself, like I've sold a guitar because the frets were wearing, sold it on, probably lost loads of money on it because the frets were wearing, and the buyer always, obviously the buyer's going to say I need to put new frets on, so blah blah blah. But sometimes, like that, my Mini Maton, I didn't have it refretted. I had it crowned one time, and it was frets were worn, it was really beat up, so I sold it. And of course, the intention then is to buy another guitar. So that's another reason why guitar builders don't want you to have guitars that last forever. It makes sense. I'm not saying it's quite that, yeah, make that sound like some kind of scandal, but it's definitely, I wouldn't be surprised if that's partly to do with it. The weather changes the action, of course, because the humidity and the rain and humidity in the air affects the amount of moisture in the wood. But over the years, that wood does settle down. So if you've got a Martin from the 90s, it should be pretty stable by now. But again, all guitars are different. Do you still practice every day? I don't. I want to, because I can clearly see how when I practice, I get better. So let me take this week, for example. There's some things that get in the way when you do this full time. So like I played Tuesday night, and I played Thursday night, Friday night, again on Friday night, Saturday morning, Saturday night. So that's 6 shows within those few days. So the problem is, I find when you play that much, you then, like, not that I did actually play yesterday, but I was practicing that new song, learning it. But the two things, honestly, is laziness and time and the body. That's the 3 things. Because laziness is a big, I probably should wake up every day and practice for an hour, stuff that I don't know. I should do that. I don't. 2, I'm playing that much that, like yesterday, I literally slept all day and I didn't want to speak because my voice was, I've been singing so much and I could feel that my voice was tired. I could feel my body was tired. I just wanted to rest. So that wrote off that day. I probably overdid it, and I don't advise anyone do that. It's a bit reckless to do that. You should never get that tired because it means you've damaged the body, right? And I forgot what the third one is now, but yeah, I certainly think we all should practice, ideally every day, 30 minutes, something that we can't do. And then you find, even if it takes a long time, you find you can suddenly do it. I've had that with a few things recently. Like, oh, I can't play that, like that part in Sultans of Swing. I can't play that. I can't do that. And I just practiced it for a while, did it at a gig, didn't think it sounded that good, listened back to the recording, thought it sounded really good. Now I do it. So I really believe practicing, recording yourself, listening back with a critical ear, posting videos of you playing things to get the experience and the feedback from other musicians is really important. And I do it when I can. But there's also that thing, and that's the problem. And when you're a kid and you're not doing any gigs, I just play and practice all day. Once you are doing something full time, not that you don't want to do it, don't get me wrong, I love it. But there's other factors of like, oh, I'm tired, I need to rest today, I don't want to listen to music today. Yeah, my ears are tired. I've been playing music for 8 hours. I just need quiet right now. That creeps into, and then the same thing with the videos, because I don't want to talk in the video when my voice is shot. Although I probably should. You know, the truth is, what I learned from doing those videos every day is that it worked, and practicing every day works. Exercising every day works. I'm just being completely honest. It's laziness, right? I wish I was a better person where I could just wake up, go for a run, practice for an hour, make a video, go do my gig, come home, brush the cat, go to, I wish that was my schedule. I'm trying to get some kind of, they say balance, right? I struggle with it. I really struggle with it. But I do know that when you practice, you get better, because I've seen it in myself, and it's common sense. One thing that I do now is that I record most of my gigs on my phone via the direct output of my pedal. And I do sit and listen back. And if there's something that's really off, I don't always practice it as such, but I will then be aware that I need to focus on that part next time I play the song. And I think recording yourself is really important. Well, this is ridiculous. I have to dress my frets 3 times a year? That's nuts, Lee. Just get Evo. Get Evo fret wire. or the guitar you play all the time, like the Voyager, get stainless steel on it. That's too much. All right, let's talk about this K-Web. I want to talk about this today, and it's getting late, so I'm going to quickly deviate from the topic. So if you've got a burning question, then send me a super chat. I want to quickly talk about this Tone Master Pro. So this was leaked. This was leaked last week, and I thought about making a video on it because the videos that I saw on it did really well. I decided not to because we don't really know what it is. But I want to talk about it because I think it's an important thing, and it is out tomorrow. So if this thing blows me away, I might go live tomorrow and just talk about it, go through the manual and stuff. But the problem is, here's the problem with gear now. I alluded to it earlier on in the video. I alluded to the fact that in 2010 we had guitars that could change tunings, and in 2023 we don't have those guitars anymore. They all got wiped out, discontinued, right? So the problem I have is that all these electric, I mean, they're not just electric guitar. I'm going more into electric guitar world now, but they also are used for acoustic guitar. I use the Voice Live 3 for my acoustic gigs, and that's an electric pedal too. But all these products, and they don't do anything different. It's so annoying. So it all started really with the Line 6 Helix. I mean, Line 6 had the Pod and the Pod HD, all that stuff, right? Which a friend of mine was using in my band in the 2002, 20 years ago, and it sounded fine. And it was small and light too, and it sounded fine. Right, so then we had the Helix, then we had the Kemper, then the Helix, all the Line 6, the Fractal stuff. Then Headrush came out. Now there's new Headrushes. There was a new Headrush last week, which is a smaller format that might suit solo performers, but they still haven't improved the vocal harmonies. I reached out to them to offer to help them with that. They didn't even reply to me. Then my emails bounced back. That was really weird. All this craziness, and then throughout all this time, I've decided that the Quad Cortex is a great form factor and a great sounding unit. It's my favorite sounding unit so far. I really think it's a great unit. So that's why I said on the channel, look, I'm always going to talk about different gear. I'm always going to want to try different gear, but I don't want to like constantly just throw things at the people watching to say, oh, you should, this is great. You should buy one of these. I don't want to do that. That's not, I'm going to get people into debt by doing that. I'm not doing it. So that's why I said, right, I'm going to keep the Quad Cortex. It's the best form factor for me. It's the best sound for me. I love it. And I do love it, and I still love it. So then they throw a curveball at me with this new one. Well, I love Fender. I spoke earlier about the emotional connection to gear. I have an emotional connection to Fender, right? I do. So this is the new one they're releasing. So it ticks all the boxes. Wow. Compact, and yet nice amount of foot switches and easy to press. Out of the box, day one, unlike Neural, you've got your looper, you've got your editor for the computer, you've got a regular power supply, you've got USB-C that none of the others, nice modern features that the others don't have. There's a mic input. So they've really taken like some of the best of all the pedals that I've ever played and put it into one unit. That makes me really, really excited. But here's the thing. We don't know what it sounds like. We don't know what it really can do. And the hype on this thing is massive. And I'm trying to find leaks on it all the time. I know it's out tomorrow. I want to try and find something to put out there early. I can't. It's all tied up now until tomorrow. But my question is, is it actually going to do something new? Is it going to have vocal harmonies that sound great? Is it going to have some amazing new feature? My fear is it won't. My fear is it'll be a very nice pedal from Fender that some people will enjoy, but it won't do anything new. It'll just be another Helix, another Kemper, and then there'll be some things that it doesn't do that the Quad Cortex does, and there'll be some things it does do that the Helix doesn't do, and it's just so annoying that no one can just make a product that truly pushes the envelope. Everyone is just simply trying to re-release the Helix and the Kemper now. There's nothing new. So the Voice Live 3 that I use was released 15 years ago, and it still has excellent harmonies, excellent looping. It's lightweight. It's still the best in class of what it does. And all these other products have come along, all these other products, and they've now got touch screens and apps, and they're easier to program and blah, blah, blah. And the amps sound better, but they haven't pushed any other direction. All they try to do is to sound like another Fender, another Marshall, another EVH. None of them actually try to add anything new and innovative. Like the Quad Cortex, what do we get there? Well, you can capture your amp and you've got a touchscreen. Yeah, you're still basically playing amp sounds. You could do that with a pod 20 years ago. The only reason I'll be really excited for the Tone Master Pro that we see on the screen is if they say, yes, there's next level vocal harmonies, next level backing track, loop imports. There's going to be a phone app next month where you can control it from your phone at a gig. Then I would get one and I'd try one, bearing in mind that I've got the return policy. Then I'd be interested. But if it's just another electric guitar amp replacement, when most people or many people already have a Fender amp that they love, why would you get this, right? It does have some cool things. It can switch the channels on a real amp, but not many things can do that. It's got USB-C, it's got a nice power supply, a real power supply, not an external one. It's got the mic input, but we don't know to what extent yet. If there's anything that could replace my Voice Live 3, it's either the Headrush Core or the Tone Master Pro, but only if the software matches what the Voice Live 3 Extreme can already do. There's also going to be a powered speaker, though. That's interesting. They're also releasing their own powered FRFR speaker for these, an 8-inch and a 12, or a 10-inch and a 12-inch, sorry. 1,000-watt, that's impressive. 1,000-watt speakers that work with this unit. So it could, for some people that haven't yet gone into modeling guitar amps and effects, this and their FRFR cab could be a nice solution. But I haven't played one, so I can't say that. But it's good to see more competition, but we get all this competition and nothing gets moved furthered. And then also Quad Cortex next week will have their editor. That's a big reason why I'm sticking with them as well. Next week we get the really nice looking software editor. I'll be able to show it to you on the screen. Like if I demo something and change the sound, I can show you on the screen what it's doing. That's going to be amazing. And they're also going to have their plugins move across soon as well into the Quad Cortex. I already own about 8 of them, 6 or 8 of them. So I'll be able to use those in my pedal. So those are the reasons why I'm still sticking with that unit. But yeah, it's always fun when new gear comes out. I'll be watching all the videos tomorrow. I'll be reading all the reviews. I'll be reading all the user guides. I can't wait to read about it. But please, companies, just do something different with all the technology. Stop doing the same thing. It's so annoying. So your answer is no. So yeah, get a Play Acoustic, definitely. And get them while you can, because they are hard to find. And we don't know yet what's happening with that product. Which fret and string gets the most wear? It's supposed to G. I think the B string on like the 3rd fret. Philippe, maybe it's me. Did you notice that Martin guitars, not only Martins, lack sustain on the low E? I can't say I have. But it really depends what guitar you're comparing it to, of course. But sustain isn't one of my complaints with Martins. I think they sustain well. But again, in general. It may just be the guitars you've played. I didn't know what model you played to. Did you play like one of the composite models? Did you play a standard series? I only had that done on my HC28 when I was trying not to do a neck reset. I just have it refretted and it's a 94. Wow. Yeah, I mean, it is the fret wire, but it's also how we play. If we play with a light touch, like a lot of electric players and jazz players do, we're going to wear the frets less than if we grip the guitar. Like blues players always need their guitars refretted every year because they dig in, they grip the guitar when they play the blues in general. Stainless and Evo are hard on tools. Yeah, but so just charge more and get new tools when you need to. I never got that reason. I mean, like if I was a guitar tech and I didn't have the right tools and someone said, "Can you do it?" I might say no because I haven't got the tools and I don't want to damage my tools. But if I was a professional full-time guitar tech, and I mean, I'm not the only one that likes stainless steel frets, right? I would just have the tools to do that job, or I would charge more and replace the tools more often. I just think that's such a... If there's any luthiers watching, then feel free to chime in, but I think that's such a weird answer. Maybe it's the strings. I have a 0018 and no problem with sustain. Yeah, I mean, if you're saying it's on multiple guitars, then you may be looking for more sustain, but I suspect it's to do with setup, weather, humidity, string age, and things like that. If we're talking about just one guitar, then it's most likely, yes, definitely the action and the setup. I thought the previous comment was saying that all guitars, like you play, I thought you meant you played like 20 Martins, they all lack sustain. I mean, that might, if you've played a Boucher or something, that may be the case for you, right? I don't know. I need to know the full story to really have an opinion on that. Rex says, I have a hard time keeping up with all different string gauges on my guitars. Yes, that's why I try to use 12 on acoustic and 10 on electric, but there are cases where that doesn't work out. And remember, I got my Cole Clark hybrid, and I didn't know what the string gauge was, and I was trying to find out. People being really mean to me online. Wasn't matter, you know. Well, it matters to me. So the tip for me was to get the really nice Stu Mac, what do you call it? Calipers. The ones from Amazon were no good. The Stu Mac calipers, I was able to determine the string gauge with those. Michael, with a lot of shows, I find I need to recover and separate myself from singing and playing, but it is laziness too. Yeah, I totally agree. But you do have to recover. You can't do 3 shows in a day and the next day practice your singing, practice new repertoire. You can't. You're going to hurt yourself. But you also probably shouldn't do 3 shows in a day. You should do 1 show in a day and then practice the new songs the next day for the following week. So there's that argument too. The Dario sustain is good. I said it before, I like the Martin strings don't last very long, but I like how they sound. The Darios last longer, they cost more money. But if you buy all these strings in bulk, they're a lot cheaper. The Dario XSs in bulk are half the price of a single packet, I found. EJ17. I use whatever the 12s are. Is that EJ16? EJ17 on Dreads. I put some Martin Lifespan lights on my 35. Yeah, I like the lights on my HTC. It's funny. I'm okay with 12s most of the time. I sometimes find the action for lead playing is just a bit too high. So then I have this dilemma. Do I have the action lowered with 12s or do I use 11s? I just tried that one on my guitar. I tried putting 11s on. 11s, even though you put 11s on, you still might want to lower the saddle slightly. It doesn't necessarily mean it lowers the action. You just have thinner strings, right? Obviously. So it's all a combination of the guitar, the way you play, the strings, the action, the relief. It's everything, right? I was using Elixirs as well, Michael, but I switched over to the XS once I heard that the Cole Clark have moved over to XS. That could be a business decision. For me, it's not about the string. It's about the way the guitar takes that string and the way the setup is on that guitar. And like I said, I don't always want to take the guitar action lower. So first thing I'll try is a lighter string to see if that fixes the problem. And yeah, it's just very nice when you get a guitar and it just out of the box, it just played. Like I have to say, my Sir guitar, just great. I done nothing to it. Got it. It plays like a dream. They made me a new neck. That next one played like a dream. It had some binding in the nut, but the actual way it plays, I've not done anything to it since I've had it. Even after and before the neck was replaced, like it's just perfect. But maybe it's perfect for me, but not for someone else, But it is nice. Yeah, that was the other thing last week, BMO. There was a day last week when we had a leak of the IRX. We had a leak of the Tone Master Pro. I read about Gruen bringing out his own line of guitars. Gibson released the Les Paul Supreme, which looked cool, but I have the same problem with them. $4,000, no stainless steel frets. So that really, I don't like that. So there was a day last week when we got all this new stuff, like this wave. It was like the gear day. It was crazy. Again, I almost made a video about it, but I didn't want to kind of get sucked into the whole commercialization of it all, but I'm definitely looking closely, and the IRX does look cool. 500. Yeah, I think it's a bit pricey at $500, but if it works and sounds great, that's fine, I suppose. I didn't know how Fender could develop all the software Line 6, etc. have done. I mean, there's programmers around, and to be fair to Fender, they have the app ready to go. I have it on my computer already, Tone Master Pro app. They have the app ready to go, and the Quad Cortex app, to be fair, is only out in beta next week. To be fair, also they've been waiting on the that editor for the Quad Cortex is to bring in integration of the plugins. That's why it's been held back. But it's taken them 3 years. The Fender, I can show it to you quickly, I think. This was leaked. Yeah, so this is going to be the app, right? It doesn't work right now. You have to connect the pedal to it. But this is going to be what the app looks like. So to be fair to Fender, they've got the app ready to go out of the box. I've got it right now, and the pedal's not out till tomorrow. So it is possible to release these apps day one. Are you listening, Neural? Because it took you 3 years. And then this and the list of what they've added is on the Fender site in the support section. And I keep clicking here on update firmware because it takes you to where it's going to be, but it's not, and it's not active yet. Fender.com/Tone Master Pro. So, still waiting for them to activate that, unfortunately. But yeah, that's it. Look, it's ready to go, which is cool. Oh yeah, it's exciting. It could be a good product. I'm just worried that I'm not worried it'll be bad. I'm just worried that it won't be anything new. That's what I'm worried about. And like I said earlier, if you don't care about that stuff, if you are just into gear and you don't have one of these sort of floor pedals yet, it might be ideal for you. But if you're someone like me that's just looking for something better than what I already have, I don't think that's, it's just a waste of money at that point. You're just selling something, losing money, buying something, selling it, losing money, chasing your tail, right? Yeah, it's a 2-channel preamp, flexible, again, software editor for the few features that you can change on that, and impulse response output. It's good. If I had a pedal board and needed a direct solution, I would consider it for sure. The videos sound awesome. I'd like to know about who developed all the software. What, for the Fender? I don't know who did it. My next song to learn is so much easier than the previous one. Need of the week now. It is only half a day, huh? My next song to learn is so much easier than the previous one. That's good. Oh, no, needed a week to learn it. Now it's only half a day. Right. Depends on the song. I learned the song I was learning yesterday in 10 minutes because it's very simple. It's just a verse and a chorus, very repetitive. One chord shape moving up and down the neck. Just got to land on the right fret. A song like Bohemian Rhapsody probably take me. I mean, there's some songs I've tried to learn that I can't learn. Stop This Train, John Mayer. Neon, John Mayer. I know if I practice them every day for a year, I'll get them. And it starts to come together. But then there's such a big commitment for one song. Sounds like you want the pedal with a variety of electric and acoustic. Yeah, I do. Well, yeah, I want the singer-songwriter guitar pedal, basically. I mean, it's almost there. If the Quad Cortex had a more advanced looper, loop import, and intelligent vocal harmonies, it would be it. They're all so close, but they don't push in those directions. They stick with satisfying a certain part of the market. It's the amount of time too, not just the toolware. The companies going cheap on frets and mass production. There are a couple of companies that don't cheap out. Eastman and Emerald come to mind. So Emerald have stainless steel frets. So there you go. Don't tell me that it's not possible. And even Martin have the Evo fret now on the Modern Deluxe, but again, you got to spend the $4.5 grand to get them. I think they should come on lower price guitars too. When I got the Harley Benton guitar, a $300 guitar, had stainless steel frets. They were corroded, but they polished up really nice. And okay, maybe their fret wire is not as good as the stuff on the Sir guitars, but there is stainless steel fret wire. I bet it would last a lot longer than nickel. Alex says, "Are you a robot?" I don't think I am, Alex, but we never know, do we? Maybe I am. It's funny, I was watching Mark Zuckerberg do his presentation on the new headset from Meta, and he kept making mistakes. He said the wrong date. He was umming and ahhing. He seemed a little bit confused at times. And my first thought was, is this deliberate to make him appear more human? Right? That's where we're getting to now. Everything now is so perfect. It's like you might sing to a backing track at your concert, and then at one part of one song, you suddenly sing one. They turn the track off, and you sing live, and it's slightly flat, just so everyone watching the concert thinks, "Oh, they're really singing the whole concert," but you're not. Or the way at the end of a song, when someone's miming, they'll turn the mic back on, and they'll say, "Thanks for listening," or "Sing along," and then they turn it back off again, and they're miming again, just to give that impression of natural, something being natural. And that's what I thought when I saw Mark Zuckerberg. I shouldn't. Maybe I'm being mean by saying that, but I couldn't help think about it. Or maybe he's just worked on his talking and it's more natural now and more relatable, which is good. Variety of amp emulators and amps for both electric and acoustic guitars. Full effects for guitars and vocals. Vocal time is greatly but interface with phone. Yeah, I mean, TC Helicon were doing it. They were doing it in 2010, so why not? Why not? And the processor in that pedal is peanuts compared to the processor in the Quad Cortex or your phone. So why not? I don't know. I mean, tell me why does the Quad Cortex, the Head Rush, and the new Fender modeler have a mic input if it's not going to have an algorithm to give you harmonies? Why? Why not? David said, I missed all the Fender. I didn't talk that long about it. I just did a little 5-minute rant about how it better be innovative or I'm not interested. Yeah, Harley Benton's, exactly. Now, some will say, yes, they have stainless steel frets, but they have cheap stainless steel frets. So I don't know. I've never compared Harley Benton stainless steel frets to Sir stainless steel frets and Martin nickel frets to Eastman nickel frets. I'm not quite that into the weeds yet. But the fact is they do have stainless steel frets at that price point of $300. It's nuts. And to get a Martin with Evo Gold fret wire, you've got to spend over $4,000 on that. You know, part of me would do it just to be done with the whole fret thing. You know, get a Sir with stainless steel frets, get a Martin with Evo Gold wire, get them from the store, make sure you like them, play them. You haven't got to think about that. I've only ever had a fret dress done once, a level and crown done once, I think. And it wasn't really a big deal, but there's something about it that really bothers me. You know, like, oh, I have to have my guitar refretted at some point. It's just, it bugs me. I don't want to have it done. I want to get a guitar where it's just going to be like that, going like an Emerald. An Emerald is carbon fiber. It's got stainless steel frets. You just play the thing, right? The problem is, I don't want an Emerald because I never played one, and I don't know if I'm going to like it. So, wow. I think I addressed everything. So, yeah, look out tomorrow. If this Fender thing is really next level innovation, quality, then I'll either make a video or I'll go. If it's incredible, if I go live tomorrow, it's because this thing is amazing. They've ticked every box. They've hired the guys from TC. They've got next level everything, and my mind is blown, and I just have to have one. If I post a video, it means they've added vocal harmonies, but no one's heard them yet. And if I don't post anything, it means it's not a bad product. It just means it's another guitar modeler, and my corner is still the Quad Cortex. And then I'm definitely going to check out that Quad Cortex editor next week when that's released and do a video on that, because I'm genuinely excited for that. And that's obviously a free update, which is nice too. So yeah, it should be an interesting week. Nothing we didn't talk about ourselves. Well, I didn't rant about it to you quite as much, maybe. I think it's better on the camera, David, because you get the animation. You know, it's not just text. You get the animation of you get my eyes and the tone of my voice changes, and I start to speed up and get aggressive about it. Like, why wouldn't they give me the products that I need for myself? So I think you should watch that back again, to be fair. And then I believe there's other stuff coming out too, but I don't know what it is. I keep hearing this is the time of year when stuff is released because the holidays are coming up, and that's the reason. So yeah. So thanks for watching. I'm going to wrap things up. Look out for that tomorrow. The Fender Tone Master Pro and the speakers that go with it should be be warned. There'll probably be a million videos on YouTube about this thing, and they'll be plastered everywhere, which is always a bit overkill when they do that, but at least the information will be real and not just speculative on the internet. And yeah, if it's amazing, I'll definitely talk about it. If it's not, I'll talk about it next Monday. So thanks for watching. As always, if you're new here, please subscribe and ring the bell. I'd appreciate it. Approaching another milestone and planning on doing that live stream show once I hit it. So please share this with your friends, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care and be well. Bye-bye.